Hi, it's Tony with Actively Golden, and here we are with part two of my teaching or my encouragement on how to write a book. And in the first video, I talked about how important it was to decide that you're actually going to do it. A lot of people think it's a nice idea to write a book, but having really truly the burning desire to do it is what's missing for a lot of people. So those of us that have a desire to write a book will make the decision to do so. And once that decision is made, it doesn't take much to turn that into a commitment, a determination, a desire to really move forward and take it to the next level. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the next phase. After you make the decision, you've said, okay, I'm going to do it. Now in this video, I'm going to tell you the first steps in actually getting it done. And I've gotten some notes written here on some pads and this grease board and so forth. So you see me looking down, it's just because I need the help. So, anyway, but when it comes to writing a book and getting started, and again, I'm going to talk a lot about the way I do it. I mean, you can learn from other people how they would encourage you to write a book, but I'm going to tell you how I do it because I've written several books. I'm 8 chapters into another one right now called Starting Afresh. I've written several that are on Amazon, 2 of which that I've sold literally thousands of copies of. But I'm not telling you that for any other reason than to say it can be done after you make that decision and you start working. So let's get into that. The very first thing you have to do after you've decided, of course, is you have to see this book. You got to visualize it in your mind. You've got to kind of see how it in your mind, how it's going to lay out, how it's going to go from beginning to end. You're just going to have to get a mental picture of it. And one of the best ways for me to do that when I'm thinking about writing a book, I brainstorm by walking and then writing notes down on a legal pad. Uh, I don't know what it is, but psychologically, there is value in taking a pen or a pencil and actually physically writing on a piece of paper some thoughts and some ideas. Now, I realize we live in the day when we can put everything in our smartphones. We have note-taking apps there, or we can simply type it on our laptop if we want to. And I'm not going to discourage that, but I will tell you that it is a fact that if you write it down physically with a pen or a piece of paper on a legal pad, it will solidify more, and your ideas will be stronger. And so this is what I have done over and over again. Even though we live in this century, in this age, I take a walk. I grab my legal pad and a pen or a pencil, and I just start walking. And I start jotting down ideas that come to me. And especially as when I'm first wanting to visualize it and lay it out, I start thinking in terms of what it's going to look at. I start mapping it out. I start doing what you might call an outline of it, or maybe a rough table of contents. And when I say an outline or a rough table of contents, I'm really talking about something that is just that. It's a draft. It's rough, which means that the likelihood is it's going to change along the way, because as you start writing, other ideas are going to pop in your mind, and you're going to want to make sure that you include that stuff. You know a lot more than you realize. And when you're first writing things down, you might have a general idea, but that you're only tapping into the knowledge that's at the forefront of your thinking at that time. But as you continue to think about it, and as you actually physically start writing the book, these ideas are going to come to you. That's why I have the legal pad sitting next to my computer while I'm writing, because I write those things down so I can include them at the right places. So the most important thing at this early stage is mapping it out, visualizing how it's going to play out, and then mapping it out. See, I write a lot of how-to books, and so it's easy for me to say, well, okay, if I'm going to write a how-to, it's easy for the first chapter to be step 1 and the second chapter to be step 2 and so forth, and just the outlaying the process. But if you're going to write more of like an autobiography or something related to history or even a novel for that matter, you still have to lay it out. You still have to sit back and jot down how you see it playing out. If you just sit down at the computer without doing this and just start typing, you're going to get confused. But if you tap into what you already know and start jotting it down on, like I said, on a legal pad like this, you'll know where you're going, and then you can always add other ideas later. So that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you jot down where you're going. Now, the next phase, after you've sort of gotten a general outline, is you want to write a paragraph or two about each of those potential chapters. The introduction, chapter 1, chapter 2, just a paragraph or two. You're going to want to sit down and say, in this chapter, I'm going to talk about this. You're not writing the book, you're writing to yourself. You're writing a note to yourself. In this chapter, I'm going to write how to find the idea. Secondly, I'm going to talk about how to develop the idea, so forth. And then you jump over into the second chapter and you do the same thing. And if you're writing like a novel, again, you're going to want to do the same process. In chapter 1, I'm going to open up by talking about the scenery, the town, the people involved, the characters. And then in the second chapter, I'm going to get into start making my way into the real issues that the people are facing, the main characters facing, key players. Then the third chapter, I'm going to talk about the actual incident, and you're going to want to just lay things out that kind of way, whether it's how-to, a biography, autobiography, uh, novel, whatever it may be. So you're going to want to do that. And another thing you're going to want to do is, whether you're writing a how-to or history or biography, novel, whatever, you're going to want to insert, uh, you know, on your legal pad or wherever you take notes, some stories that you're going to tell. You're going to want to go ahead and write some of those out enough to where they trigger your memory. In a lot of the books that I write, uh, I particularly the one that I wrote for my students years ago that I referenced in the first video, the one that I wrote for them, I started every chapter with a story. And so what I did was I thought about those stories and where I was going to place them in the book before I ever wrote the first page of the book. And so you're going to want to think about analogies and stories and illustrations that you're going to want to plug in at certain places. So again, you're doing some initial groundwork. Step 1, you've decided you're going to do it, you're committed. Secondly, now you're mapping it out, you're visualizing it, you're seeing the finished product in your mind. So you're drafting out a rough outline, a rough table of contents, giving yourself permission to know that you're probably going to change some things. Take this out, move it over there, add this here, and that kind of thing. Knowing that as you're writing it, those things are going to take place. And then you're going to think about just the stories that you're going to include, or the statistics, or the illustrations that you're going to add. You want to get as much as you can on a piece of paper before you even sit down and write the first chapter. So again, map it out. Decide you're going to do it, then map it out, and then develop that initial outline into just some general paragraphs about what each paragraph, each chapter is going to be about, and then include some analogies and stories that you're going to insert throughout the book, and you'll be well on your way. This process doesn't take long. Usually when I do it, a day or two, a sitting or two, and when I say a sitting or two, I'm saying an hour or two per sitting. So 4 hours at the most, I've got all of this stuff written down, and makes me feel really good. And I'm feeling like I'm real into it now, and now I can sit down and get a cup of coffee and start typing this book. Thanks for watching. Give me your comments below, and please consider liking it helps the channel a lot if you like the video, share the video, and even subscribe to the channel. I look forward to sharing more content with you down the road. Again, I'm Tony with Actively Golden. Thanks for watching. All the best.